Welcome to the Mortgage Pro Podcast. Education, inspiration, motivation and implementation.
For anyone who doesn't necessarily know who Spencer Lodge is then, as we've already said with quite a few people, what do you do?
Well, people don't know me.
Maybe. They might not yet.
Everyone knows me, don't they? Everyone knows me. What do I do? Do you know what? I find it really hard to answer this question, really honestly. Because I do a lot of things. What am I known for?
Yeah.
I'm known for being somebody that teaches companies how to grow and people how to sell. That's what I'm known for. But I own 6 companies and they're all across a few different industries. But I suppose my trade, where I come from, is I come from a financial services background. So that's the world I was. I was a financial advisor at 23 years old in Hong Kong. And lucky enough to be working in an industry where the money was big because people had lots of money to invest. And so a financial advisor here in the UK was just not doing a too dissimilar job to me, but just there were more zeros on the back of everyone's salaries over there. So it made
sense.
Yeah.
So going back to 23 then, did you start off as a financial advisor here? Takes on a bit of your journey from, obviously you used to live next door to me 30 years ago and I remember.
How did we find each other?
Social media. It was. I have no idea. I think it was just a case of you popped up. I don't know. I have no idea how I connected with you. It was either on Facebook or Instagram, one or the other. But then you just popped up, and then I saw it, and off it went from there.
So,
but when, because I don't know what you were doing at kind of 6. I know you were selling life insurance to expats at that time, and then there was a conversation around about.
I wasn't when you were little.
No. That must have been when I was 17, because you were going abroad and we had a conversation about me doing it, but I didn't want to leave mum and dad. Was the be all and end all of that as 17. Mummy's boy.
Fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was, I remember you were going to do that. I can even remember my girlfriend at the time as well, and whether it was going to be serious and everything. I can remember that whole journey of speaking to her and saying, I might be going to Dubai or going abroad to do life insurance and But yeah, taking us to 23.
Well, I was.
Oh, how did you get into financial services?
School, I failed miserably. I was shit at everything. I got 1 O level, and I'm sitting in a room with a podcast with my eldest daughter sat behind me. So I hope she can't hear me. Zone out. Stay focused on your phone. I wanted more than anything else to be a ski instructor.
Yeah.
So I became a ski instructor. I did that for a little while. My mum was running a recruitment consultancy at the time. She said, "You've got to get a proper job." And so she got me 3 job interviews. One was in Bishop Stortford at a BMW dealership called Sewell's. One was as a trainee estate agent, and the other one was a trainee photocopier salesman. So I went to the BMW dealership because it came with a 3 Series, a 316 and whatever it was. And at the time it was like, that's amazing. I didn't care about the salary, I cared about the car. And I got that job. I was there for a month and got fired for having a bad attitude. And then I think my dad wanted me to join the estate agency, but because he did, I didn't want to. So I went to London and I learned to sell photocopiers. And that was, without doubt, the best experience of my life. The memories I have from that, the training, we used to train. In that house where I lived next door to you, I would wake up at 4:30 every day. I would shower, I'd leave at 5. I'd be in London for 6 because training started at 6:15 until 8. Yeah. And if you weren't in at 6:15, they'd lock the doors. And so we trained 6:15 till 8 in the morning in the office. And at 8 o'clock, I was just south of the Tower Bridge. And at 8 o'clock, I had to drive across to my patch, which was EC3. And I had to do 100 door knocks. And then in the afternoon, I had to do 100 cold calls. And that's what it was, because we didn't have phones or computers and stuff. We had the yellow pages, but that's all we had. So I did that. And some of the really valuable lessons that I learned, my boss on day one said to me after I'd gone out door knocking, he said, "Look, you're going to get on the phone right now." He goes, "And I want to tell you before you make these phone calls that nearly everybody, in fact 99 out of 100, are either going to say not interested or they're going to say something much worse." He said, "So what I want you to understand is you need to go and get all these no's and this rejection, because there's somebody in there that's going to say yes. And all I want you to worry about is that one person. So go find 99 no's for me now." Yeah. And so my mind at that time, I was 19 years old, my mind was like, oh, okay, I've got to find no's. So I've got my telephone script in front of me. I've got my sheet of objections here, how you handle objections listed. So I've got these 2 things in front of me. I've got 2 card boxes on my desk, a phone that's got a wire to the floor. And I start picking up the phone and dialing, and it's like F off and B off and all this kind of stuff. No, why are you calling me? Stop calling, all this kind of stuff. And then one person, who I'll never forget, one person's answered the phone, and she said, actually, we're getting quotes right now. And I was like, can I come and see you? She's like, well, we just want to quote. I'm like, I can't quote you unless I come and see you. Look, I could be there in half an hour. And so she said, yes, sure. So I gave the lead across to my sales guy I worked for then, David Thornton. And David went out, saw her, and he sold her a fax machine that it was plain paper faxes. They first come out by Ricoh. And he sold her this plain paper fax machine for £5,000. And there was like £1,500 profit in it. And so then what my boss did the next day at training is he took all of the compliment slips and he laid them out on the boardroom table. And he divided the compliment slips by the amount of commission was in the deal. And there were the pieces of paper. He said, that's how much that piece of paper's worth. And it just I looked at it, I'm like, oh man, look at this. And it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. But of 16 trainees, I was the only one left standing after a year. Because they'd all given up, they couldn't deal with the rejection, they couldn't cope with it, which sales gives you. But for me, rejection was a good thing, because I don't know why, but it went in my head and it sat there, and I'm like, I've got to find the no's. So every day, whether it was knocking on the doors or whether it was making the cold calls, it was like, I've got to find some no's. And most people can't cope with rejection, so they don't get very far. So that was the kind of beginning of my journey, and then I went from one company, the company that trained me, I had to leave because the boss gave me his car at Christmas, and I got done for speeding on the M11, and I lost my license for 3 months, and I couldn't get into London. You know where we lived, we weren't near a train station or a bus station or anything, so I couldn't get into London. And so I took a job with a copier company that was out in Braintree, near where we were, and the guy said, look, I'll give you someone, pick you up from work and take you to your meetings and stuff. I was like, okay, solved. And I did that for 3 or 4 months, and then I went back into London with another company where I'd felt most comfortable, and again things were great. I had a couple of years and it was good. We earned great money. There was people earning lots of money in selling copiers, like lots of money. So I felt I was in the right environment, highly competitive, hundreds of salespeople, everyone like going for broke, mercenary people and caring people, all these different personality types. And then somebody I knew had been interviewed for a job selling financial advice in Hong Kong. And I was like, And then someone had told me there was like even bigger money. And I remember there was a guy called Seamus that worked with us, and he said to me, the only way you'll ever make big money is to work with money. And I was like, oh. And it was one of those moments, I was like, oh, that's so profound. When you're a kid, it's like, oh yeah. And then you then go off then, I need to search for a way to do that. And I then went for an interview, and then the head office of the company was in Ipswich. So I drove up to Ipswich and I went for the interview, and I was 23 at the time, and the woman's name was Bryony, I'll never forget. She interviewed me, and then when I got home I got a phone call and she said, no, you're too young. And so I sat down with my mum and I was like, Mum, they said I'm too young. She's like, okay. She said, so what are you going to do about it? I'm like, well, they said I need to be 25. She said, okay, well then either wait 2 years or do something about it. And I'm like, well, what would you do about it? And she just looked at me and she said, do I have to tell you? And I was like, tell me, Mum. And so she told me what to do and I followed her instructions. So the next day I drove back to the office and I waited for the CEO of the company for 4 hours. And eventually he came and he's like, what's wrong? What are you sat here for? And I'm like, I just want a chance. She won't give me a chance. I think I can do this. I want a chance. And everything turned on its head in a second, because my grandfather had just had a stroke and he was in hospital in Chelmsford at Gallywood. The guy I was interviewing, so my grandfather was in hospital in Gallywood. Yeah. The guy that was interviewing me that owned the company, his father that very day was in the same hospital as my grandfather.
No.
And he drove with me to the hospital, and we literally, he went one way, I went another way. And when that came out in the conversation, he said, I think it was a Thursday, he said, you got 5 days to be in Hong Kong. And I was, 5 days? And this was back before, you couldn't book a flight online. You had to go to a travel agent, where are you going to get the money from, and all this kind of stuff. And And then things changed. I booked a flight to Hong Kong and things changed. I actually went to Bangkok. I was trained in Bangkok, and I remember walking around the streets of Bangkok the weekend I arrived there, and I thinking, what have I done? All my mates were back home, you know, my family was back home. I'm on the other side of the world. What have I done? What have I done? And after I got through those couple of days, I phoned my mum up. I'm like, Mum, I can't do this. I want to come home. She's like, you're not coming home. She's just, this is not happening. You've been there like 2 days. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be here. She's like, you agreed. You've gone to work for them. You give them 3 months of your best shot. If after 3 months doesn't work, then you come home. By after 3 months, it was amazing. You know, I remember going on my financial services training course, and I remember I sat on a course, and there were these products like regular savings products and life insurance and term and whole of life products. And I'm sitting there, and I'm on this course going, what do you mean people have to pay to save their money? What's this 1.5% a year? What's that about? Well, they have to pay Well, why would anyone do that? And I remember I got to Bangkok, and I said, don't get why people have to pay to save money. And it took me probably another 10 days for it to kind of like fall into my brain in a way that I could understand it. But honestly, I sat there, I was on a course for a week going, why would anyone do that? You know, why used to leave it in the bank? You know, why would you pay it? It was me being taught to understand that the bank are using it to invest themselves. But again, you're 23 years old, you're green, you don't know stuff.
Yep.
And when you don't know stuff, you know, you also, when you're young, you're not always brave enough to ask the dumb questions.
Yep.
And so
you don't have to be young for that.
Yeah. And so that happened, and then I lived in 10 countries. So I worked for one company, set my own company up, and my dad was in West Africa in Nigeria. I went there, and I'm like, right, and people were paid a shitload of money to be there. And so people had massive disposable incomes. It was great from a business point of view, impossible to recruit for though, because nobody wanted to go to Nigeria. But, you know, I'd never seen people with as much disposable income as they were there. I mean, everything was paid for, and everything they earned went in the bank accounts for whatever they wanted it. So I realised that I was probably, and I was also lonely because I couldn't recruit people, and I'm not sure I was a good enough leader at that time. And then I went for an interview in London, and I didn't know where I wanted to live, and we got the map of the world out on the desk. And the guy that was interviewing me wanted me to go back to the Far East. He's like, no, you need Singapore. I was like, I want to see other parts of the world. And we just agreed for no reason, and we just pointed at Sao Paulo in Brazil. And so I went to Sao Paulo in Brazil. And there wasn't any plan behind it. It was like, there's business. And I think I've been sold on the fact that there's business everywhere. So I went to Sao Paulo, and then that company I worked for was called Britex, and 5 directors of Britex then became one. And then the senior management in Britex, which was 3 of us, then became one with the CEO of Britex, and it was changed to Devere. So then we founded this company, and there was 25 of us. We then grew it through 70 countries to 1,700 people. So it had grown, but because I was a workaholic and I liked to travel, I could go and work 3 or 4 years in one country and then go and open up an office somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I went from Brazil, I then went to Cairo, I then went to Milan, then to Slovakia, then to Amsterdam, and had 4 years in Amsterdam where I would come back here every weekend. And then after Amsterdam, I then went to Dubai 15 years ago. And again, I got to Dubai. I remember moving into Dubai, we bought a company there. I walked in the offices, and it was like, I couldn't believe it. There was this 3,000 square foot of small cubbyhole offices, like where people have little offices with doors. I'm like, what? There were 12 employees of this company. I got to the end of the first week, I'd sacked 10 of them. And I'm like, I've got the interior people in. I was like, get rid of all these walls, let's open this space up. And so we opened it all up, painted it white, and then we got busy recruiting. And so we had, by the end of that year, I think we had 90 people. At the end of the second year, we had 160 people just in the office in Dubai. And then we grew Abu Dhabi and other places in the Middle East. And it was just a great time. It really was. So yeah. And then 2012, I sold my shares and I stepped out of that business and went in a different direction. Never to go into financial services again. Only to 12 months later, set up another wealth management company.
I think it always pulls you back. The amount of people that I've spoken to from the mortgage industry and everything, they can't get out. It's like they go and do something else for a period of time, and it's like that pull is always there, and you end up going back into it in some way, shape, or form.
Well, I tell you what I did, and I have a medical insurance business. I have a piece of... Two guys came into my office one day, and they said, we've got this software, and we can't use this software without having a JV with another company that's got an insurance broking license. So they sat down and they showed us the software, and I'm like, okay, fair enough. I went through the software, and I didn't really understand it. It was
Software.
they were demoing it, and I was like, oh yeah, great. And I walked out, and Danielle, my business partner, and Danny, she's like, what's it like? I'm like, no idea. I'm really honest with you. It's been really interesting, but I've got no idea. She's like, do you want me to look at it? And she's very good at that kind of stuff. So she sat with them for a couple of hours, and she's like, Spencer, we need to do a deal with these people. Anyway, I sat down with her, and in Dubai there's 79 insurance broking licenses. That's all there is. And I said, how many other companies have you been to talk to about doing a JV with an insurance broking license? And they went, everyone. They all said, no, you're the last one. And I was like, me? Why am I the last? Why wasn't I the first? I should be the first one. And like, well, you're the last one. But all of the other business owners did what I did. They didn't understand it. Yeah. And because they didn't understand it, they brushed it aside because it wasn't part of what their uniform understanding of their industry. And so once we understood what the software was, I bought a chunk of the company from them, and I kept them employed, and they still had shares. And then 3 months later, I could see that they weren't the people for us. And so then I just bought all of the company from them. That company essentially is HR administration. So what it does is it runs the not recruitment, HR. So it runs all of the administration for companies' HR in the Middle East. And there's different rules and regulations over there, and different types of products, documentation and stuff. But what happens is, you're a company, you use our software for free, you don't pay for it. We have all the data of everyone in your company. So we know where everyone goes to school, how many kids they've got, what salaries they've got, where their bonuses, where their bank accounts are, what their insurance history is like, what their medical history is like, all on this system. When they go on vacation. And so with this piece of software, we started to gather a huge amount of data. Mm-hmm. And then what we did, because we sell medical insurance, we said to companies, if we give you this software for free, can we compete for your group medical insurance? And they're like, yeah, you can compete. And so you give them the software, they use it, they love it. It's now integrated into their system. Once it's integrated into their system, right, can we quote? Yeah, you can quote. And when it comes to quoting, they've built a relationship up with you that they don't have with anyone else. And in Dubai, interesting figures. In Dubai, group medical insurance renewals are around 50%. And the 10% gross commission that the medical insurance companies pay typically is given in many cases as backhanders, okay, to incentivize the client. And I remember the first deal we did, the guy said to me, oh, can I have this, and he wanted resident permits for 5 members of his family that weren't in Dubai. And I'm like, no, we sell medical insurance. He said, yeah, but can you do that? And I honestly, I didn't get it. I'm like, what? We don't do immigration. That's not what we do. And visas are expensive in Dubai. He's like, but that's what I need. For me to process this deal, that's what I need. And it was like 300 staff. It was a reasonable sized deal. And so I just phoned the CEO up. I'm like, your head of HR and finance is asking for this. He's like, really? Anyway, that guy was fired, and not that was my fault, but they did the deal. It's like, what's the backhander thing? But with that software going into companies, our renewal rate on the medical insurance is 93%. So nearly everybody renews. Yeah. And when everyone's renewing, your forward contracted income, because it's only an annual premium, your forward contracted income is really healthy. Yeah. Along with the data, you have a very valuable business. And so the medical insurance, and we weren't doing anything else apart from medical. Now it's changing because all of the other types of corporate insurances are now going to be sold to everyone that buys medical insurance. And there's 12,000 companies.
In Dubai?
No, that use the system.
Oh, that use it. Bloody hell. Nice.
So the business is worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's still a wealth management business in there. But all of these businesses, there's wealth management, insurance broking, medical insurance. There's a first aid training company, believe it or not. And we trained, so we trained first aid, and then obviously that links into lead generation for other stuff. And those businesses, 3 years ago? Yeah, 3 years ago. I didn't want to run them. They weren't what I understood them, and I understand it just didn't satisfy me. Yeah. And so I said to Danielle, who works with me, I said, do you want to run this? And she's like, yeah, I'll run it. And she'd worked for me for 12 years at the time, so I knew her well.
Yeah.
And she's like, of course I'd love to run this. She said, but there's one condition. She's like, I want your car park pass. And I was like, why? She said, because you own the company and they'll keep coming to you, so you have to give me a chance to be the boss. So get out of the office, let me do it. I'll speak to you twice a day. I'll speak to you 10 times a day, but leave the office alone and let me run it. Otherwise I won't do it. I was like, what? It won't really be like that, it'd be fine, And she's like, non-negotiable, give me the car park pass back. And so I did, and it was difficult for the first couple of months, but now it's just fantastic. She's just done an amazing job, like incredible job. And so I go to the office once a month to meet with everybody. I speak to Danielle twice a day, and that runs fine. And it gave me then the chance to go and do what I wanted to do, which was to build my sales training business.
Yeah.
And man, I made some mistakes with that as well. I had some real journey with that. Because I'm going to build an e-learning platform. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a revolutionary. That's brilliant. Yeah. And I built a lean learning platform, and we launched it in December 2016. 450 videos, 26 courses. I mean, everything's on there. Everything I know about sales. And we launched it online. So we ran an online campaign. We launched it online, and it took off like crazy. And I just sat there feeling really empty because I didn't have interaction with people. And that for me was really important. I got no energy from just this thing, this online thing. I was like, oh my God, I'm an e-commerce. It was just lonely.
Just a computer.
Yeah. And whilst I had a team of people that worked with me, I needed interaction with customers. I needed to talk to people. So what I did is sat and rethought it, and took advice, went and learned from people, and realized that what I wanted to do was train people. What I didn't want to do was to train people online alone. So then I started to run training seminars where I was teaching people, and there are people out there, you know them. There's the guy that doesn't like to leave his house or his office, and he'll do a webinar all day long over a seminar. Yep. There are seminar junkies, okay?
Constant next one,
people,
nothing.
but they need to be in the room.
Yep.
Okay, for them, they need the energy of the room. Otherwise, they don't get anything from it. And yes, a lot of these seminar junkies are people that just don't do anything constructive, which is really sad. Because why spend a weekend like this weekend I've been at of your life learning from great people all weekend? No need to do nothing. Go and sit in the park, get some sun, eat an ice cream. Do you really need to sit there? Oh yeah, and they have 3 days of I'm going to do great stuff, and then after that it's like, what was I doing last weekend? So I went and learned, and I understood what I wanted to do. I also understood that the big market for me was corporates as opposed to retail. And most businesses are terrible at training salespeople. First of all, business owners are terrible at recruiting salespeople. Their subconscious works very strangely. If you meet someone for the first time and you find something about them when you meet them that you don't like, your subconscious will then spend the next hour trying to find as many things as possible not to like about them.
Yep.
On the flip side, if you like someone, you like someone a tiny bit, constantly looking for more things you can like about. Well, an interview, that's really dangerous, because the sales guy's coming in to be interviewed, and he's got his game on, yeah?
Yep.
And he walks in with his game on, and the moment you think, oh, he's not bad, you get sucked into liking things about him. And as a business owner, you're then like, he'll be good. How do you know?
I did that for 10 years.
I recruited so many salespeople who were rubbish because I liked them.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest mistake I made. What year was that? 2019, my business partner bought in. I bought him out 2011. So pretty much for a year, 2010, 2011, I bought in salespeople because I liked them. Sell life insurance. It was awful.
Terrible. Terrible thing to do. And then you get these things like, tell me what it is that you liked about this candidate. Well, he's got a really good attitude. He's got a really great work ethic. And I'm like, how do you measure his work ethic at an interview? Oh, he just has. He told me he works really hard. It's like all these stupid things. So, like you did, like I did, okay, recruiting people has to be a lot smarter, and business owners typically aren't good at it because they'll make impulsive decisions, or they employ people to recruit salespeople that don't understand salespeople. So what happens is that companies then recruit bad people, they then don't train them well, and then they do this really crazy thing. They take their top salespeople and they promote them into managerial roles. And it's like, why? Yeah, because he's a really good salesperson. And that means what in his new role? And then, even if they want to do that, they then don't put those people on a training course to learn how to be managers. You ask nearly every manager in sales, what structured training program have you been on, residential course have you been on? And nearly every one of them goes, None. And so you then want great salespeople to become leaders of others, so selfish to selfless, and then selfless without the tools and the skills to be epic and deliver performance. Well, there's in any other industry, in any other business, if that structure was in place, in engineering, in electronics, in anything else, in a bank, that wouldn't wash. So I'm busy on social media educating people to understand this kind of stuff so that people really benefit from this type of knowledge so that they can make better decisions for their business. And invariably, when I go and talk to companies about sales training, the problem isn't the sales force. The problem is the business owner or the senior management. And they can't see it because they're too busy pointing their finger at everybody else as to why it's not working.
I talk about it all the time, and it's if you're in an employed job, and I've been there myself, as most people probably have, are a business owner, you're generally a technician at the beginning, then you kind of transition and think, I'm going to have this wonderful idea, I know, I'll be a business owner because that will give me freedom and autonomy and I can do what I want when I want. And actually it's nothing like that, because you continue to have a job and you continue to do everything all the time. Then slowly but surely you start to go, I'll give a little bit of admin away, or I'll start then giving away a little bit of sales, and actually you're learning yourself on that journey. And that's what I did for 10 years. I just basically made so many mistakes for 10 years. And then when I reflected on it in 2016, I was like, right, I recruited badly. I haven't learned to be a business owner. I've got really good at my craft. I've not done any marketing, and I've not learned anything about marketing. And it's kind of like that whole 10 years was a real education. But I think that's why we've grown much better over the last 3 years, because you have these realizations. But the problem for a lot of people is they don't do the training, they don't invest in themselves, they don't want to spend it because they see it as a cost, not an investment. And it's not like going to the same as the courses. They go there because they don't want to pay the money, but then they don't share it with the people who can ultimately benefit from it.
Grant Cardone, when he was with me the other day, said something really interesting around that. He said, I had to learn to stop being a salesman and to start being a businessman. He said, and they're two completely different skills. He said, when I learned to be a businessman, that's when I was able to scale my business. When I was a salesperson, I couldn't scale. So, it really resonated, because he said, I would never have been able to buy the plane unless I was a business person. He said, when you're a business person, you're not trying to woo, seduce, promote anything to anyone. Okay, you believe so much in what you're doing and the value you bring that you don't need to play golf with people. You don't need to go and have long lunches with people. It's like, are we doing business, yes or no? I'm a business person and so are you. And so it was really interesting learning that, and I think that lots of people don't. Okay, setting up your own business is the most ridiculous thing you can do for nearly everybody. It's ridiculous. Most people that set up their own business don't even have 1% of the skills that they need to build a moderately successful business. Yet, like you say, freedom! It's not freedom. It's purgatory, and it's lonely, and it's difficult, and there's no one walking around giving you a high five, and there's no letter or email you receive from a boss saying to you, you know what, I'm really happy. There's no one giving you a pay review. Okay, there's no one saying to you, would you like a promotion? It's all on you. Yeah. And you have to wipe the asses of all the people that work for you. You have to be responsible for every decision, the good ones and the bad ones. Okay, and you must own every one of them. So you're right, people don't invest. But when you go out trying to sell something to somebody in today's marketplace, you're going to be climbing a very steep hill for a long time. People are just not buying the way they used to. The behavior has changed. And if we can all sit and talk about how everyone's necks are bent over because they're staring at their phone, and how that's changed, and how kids these days don't play outside because they stay at their phone, all this kind of stuff that goes on, Look at that parent giving their iPad to their kid at the dinner table and that kind of stuff. We can all have a comment about that. Then we have to understand the things that have changed along the way. We'll be driving more and more electric cars, then we're going to be driving autonomous cars. When I was a youngster, I didn't even have a phone. Things have changed. People buy differently now. And the way it used to happen is, you'd find a prospect, you'd prospect to them, you'd go see them, you'd send them a proposal or a quotation, you'd follow up, and then you'd make a sale. And the promise would be on all this after sales service. When you become a client, I'm going to give you all this, my world, my love, my attention.
And so many people still think like that.
Which is ridiculous, because those people that think like that don't even behave like that as consumers themselves. All right, so it's almost like saying, yeah, I behave like this, but nobody I do business with does, which is just bollocks, and those people need to grow up and realise who they are. And for those people that are listening to this podcast that think like that, I want to tell them you're idiots. All right, honestly, you've just got to accept that you don't know what you're doing. That's why your business isn't growing and being successful, because you don't get it. And let me give that advice right now. You must categorically, without any shadow of doubt, bring massive value to people first. People want to buy products, they want to buy services, but they will not buy them unless that value has been given to them first. That's what's changed. That after sales thing, gone. People want to make a decision to buy based upon the information. Now, if they're looking at your competitors' information at their phone, then guess what? Then their competitors' information is valuable to them, you're not going to get a shout in. So you need to make sure you are where everyone is. And even though this device has changed everything, it made it so much easier to target who you really wanted to target. And you know this, and I'm sure you teach this to people that you work with. To be able, back when I was a kid, you couldn't do that.
Door knock.
You couldn't. How would I know from 100 doors who was the kind of person to talk to? How would I know from 100 cold calls? How would I know from putting an advert on the side of a bus? How would I know about these things? You just wouldn't. It was, hopefully some of it will get there. Nowadays, it's like I can be laser focused on everyone I want to talk to. Exactly who I want to talk to in a company. Exactly who might be interested in the kind of things that I talk about. I can literally do that. And if I can do that and I can bring value to those people that are half interested in what I do, and I can just continue to bring that value, then they're going to buy from me. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
And so anybody that's in sales, my mum's 75 years old and she uses Instagram. And my dad's 75 years old, and whilst he doesn't really understand Instagram and he posts inappropriate comments of people because he doesn't quite get it and he thinks he's funny, but most people don't find it funny. The fact is, if a 75-year-old can use Instagram, then a 25 or 35 or 45 or 55 and any other dinosaur out there that's got some idea about the fact that that's for my kids' generation and not for them. I'm 50 next year and I've had to master this in the last 3 years, so if I can do it, anyone can.
So where do you think, is that where you're spending most of your time then on Instagram? Where do you think the best places are to spend time? Is it, because they almost say like younger demographic. I've got two apprentices, Jack's kind of around 20 and Toby's under 20, and it's like they don't really get Facebook. Their generation is on the Instagrams and the Snapchats, and it's almost like Facebook is now my era and your era, but then we're moving more to LinkedIn because that's becoming a little bit more like Facebook was. Okay. Where should people be hanging out?
This is what I know. At Christmas, I took my youngest daughter, Kadia, and did a Facebook Live with her. And I said to her, she's growing on TikTok, okay, she's 17, that's where she is. I said to her, why don't you use Facebook? And her answer was so profound to me. She went, oh, it's so complicated, Facebook. Why would you use that? And I was like, what? It's like, because Facebook was the one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So listening to her and understanding her, and then understanding really what's changing. Snapchat had its moment, and Facebook and Instagram were very, very smart. They're very smart to jump on the back of that and say, right, let's hold that one back here and get good at it ourselves. And whilst I know that lots of people still use Snapchat, more people use Instagram. So it depends on your business, where you're marketing yourself, as to what platform you should be on. Lots of people think LinkedIn is where business people are. I would be on LinkedIn not for that reason. I would be on LinkedIn because LinkedIn's 10 years behind Facebook in terms of how it works. And so all the benefits we got off Facebook, we get still on LinkedIn. You advertise on LinkedIn, it's extortionate. It costs a fortune to advertise on LinkedIn. So advertising there's not great, but creating video content and putting it into LinkedIn, you get way more long form comments on LinkedIn. And those long form comments are conversation as opposed to emojis. And that conversation gives you a chance to embark on further conversation with those people. So for me, that's really important for me to be there. I would never, if you'd have asked me the question a year ago, where you're getting your leads from, where your clients coming to you from, I would have never said Instagram. But every week, at least one company contacts me and says, Spencer, can you come and talk to us about doing what you do? And the first message back is, thank you so much for your interest. Can you tell me, okay, how did you find out about me? Well, I've been following you on Instagram for a period of time, and everyone says the same. And they follow me on Instagram on my stories more than my posts. So I have a process every morning, like you do. I get up in the morning, okay, and if I don't produce a video of me going to the gym and doing something, people say, what's going on? Where are you this morning? Where's my motivation? You know, and I'm like, you realise there's an impact you have on people. And then on top of that, I try and document my day so that people can see I'm just a real regular guy. You know, I've got my strengths and my weaknesses, the things that I find funny, you might not. Okay, I'm just telling my story, and that's my reality TV. And if you look at these options you've got email, you've got WhatsApp, you've got Facebook Messenger, and you've got text messages and stuff like that. If I was to send 20 emails to you a day, you would unsubscribe me pretty quick. If I was to send 20 WhatsApps to you every day, you'd probably do the same, and text messages and stuff like that. I can't be in your face that way. You don't want to hear from me that often. You don't want my information that often. So probably an email I could get away with once, maybe twice a week. So I have to be careful, because all you've got to do is click a button and unsubscribe. So I have to be careful there. However, you will happily consume 50 of my stories of my reality TV a day. And so I think about that a lot. And when you look at these different channels, I see reality TV, chat show, and sitcom. And so we go and watch a sitcom. Well, we'll probably watch it again. We've all watched an episode of Seinfeld twice, or Friends and stuff like that.
EastEnders or anything.
No, sitcoms, so comedy shows.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, so like that we've
Friends and
yeah. You could say stuff from Gavin and Gavlar. You know, we could all say things that we've watched once or twice, and that home for that is YouTube. So that content goes to YouTube, and then we can go back and watch it again and again. We don't watch Jonathan Ross's chat show twice. We watch it once. And so what happens is, in Facebook and LinkedIn, I mean, Facebook are doing lives fairly soon in Dubai. Are they live here yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so it's coming across from the States. So
they're launching it.
They're launching it. So Instagram, LinkedIn will be live soon. Facebook is live. But what happens is, if you put something into your feed on Facebook alive, okay, tomorrow somebody might watch it a replay, but then it's gone. It's gone. It's done. No one's going back to that again. So you've got your sitcom at the bottom here, which people go back and watch. Then you've got your chat show on Facebook and LinkedIn that people are going to watch once and never watch again. Okay, and then on top of that, on Instagram stories, you've got reality TV. And so that, if you think about your business in those ways, then you can think about how you produce content. You spend money on the stuff on YouTube. The Facebook Live is a camera, a light, okay, and you doing your thing. Your Instagram stories is you living your life with this in your pocket. And so creating the content so that my mum can consume you in the way she wants to consume you, and my daughter can consume me in the way she wants to consume me, is important to understand. Then you have to understand how relevant it is to your market. And this is where people get really stressed, because they say, I don't know what to produce.
Yeah.
And they get stuck in this place of paralysis from analysis. How do I do something? What do I do? You know, I'm not boring. My hair's not done. My face isn't done. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to process this. I've got nothing important to say. My life's really dull. Everybody's life is pretty dull to them. But we still, I mean, you watch what happened, okay? We used to watch soap operas big time, okay? Years ago, we were all about soap operas, UK, United States. Then there was a screenwriters' strike in America. And then it came across to the UK, and that meant that there was no production, there's no content to be produced. Screenwriters said, we want more money. And so soap operas became under massive threat. So what then happened was there was something that was invented, okay? And this thing that was invented, okay, was called Big Brother, where we would stare at people for weeks on telly that do nothing. John and Fiona are having a cup of tea in the garden. It's like, what the fuck, you know? Now, but it was huge. It was, and still to this day in many parts of the world, this kind of stuff's on, where people sit and watch.
You got Love Island on now, haven't you? That's the major one.
Okay, so where did that all start from? A lot of people will say that reality TV came from the Kardashians. It didn't actually.
It was
It's before the Kardashians.
The American guy who used to be the rocker and
English guy.
He
used to be a rocker. Ozzy Osbourne.
Yes,
yeah,
Sharon Osbourne. I couldn't think of her name.
And he'd be like, Sharon! So you've got, that's the precursor to it all. So this reality TV then became a norm for us, where you were following people around, and that then has transcended into our lives, isn't it? You know, and reality TV is what we produce now. And some people you follow are boring, and some people you follow are great, and the ones you follow are great for you. They're meant to be great for me, but they're great for you. So understanding all of this means that then you can start compartmentalizing where you need to put your content. So emails go out once or twice a week. Your messages go out once or twice a week. Your Instagram is for your reality TV, and that can go 50 times a day, and people will consume it all day long. Okay. Then you've got your Facebook Live and your Instagram and your LinkedIn Live, which then goes in the feed and it's gone. And then on your YouTube channel is stuff that people can watch over and over again. Again, don't worry about being perfect at creating content. If you go to YouTube and watch my first video, okay, you'll never watch it with me because I'm so embarrassed about it, it's untrue. My first video is shocking. But you can see how bad I was. And we all start somewhere. We're all bad at one point. You can't start with perfect production. You can't start with perfect content. Just start doing it, because you know the people that I train that get into this, I probably make them do 30 videos before I allow them to put anything out anyway, because I just want to get comfortable doing it. And once they get comfortable doing it, you know, because all of a sudden something changes in them where they go from being terrified of this device to start loving it, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, right, here we go, as opposed to being mortified that they're in front of camera. So I believe every business nowadays that does not understand that is under threat. And it doesn't matter what the industry is. Whatever you are selling, and everyone's selling something, whatever you are selling, if you don't understand how digital media works, then you're going to die. You'll fail as a business. You just will. We already know that small businesses suffer anyway through lack of knowledge and lack of experience and lack of skills. Well, then compound it with the fact that you haven't got a clue how to use marketing in today's day and age. And you're going to knock on some doors and make some cold calls like I did in the 80s. Good luck with all that.
Chance.
Good luck.
And that's the thing is, people come to you pre-sold then, don't you? It's almost like the effort's gone into the pre-selling rather than actually the selling. Because it's when I get the phone call from somebody who says, oh yeah, Gary, I've read your book, I've watched your videos on YouTube, oh, I've downloaded your lead magnet and I've seen the 7 mistakes that people make. Yeah, I haven't made any of those. I've got all my documentation, my accounts, my SA302s, because you've done that. Where do I send it?
Mm-hmm. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the best feeling in the world. If I could have that every single day, then happy days. You know,
a guy called Joe Woodhouse that's a client of mine, and his online business is called Family Wealth 101 as a financial advisor. And Joe's from Sheffield. He lives in Abu Dhabi, and he produces the most amazing videos ever. Okay, and he never talks about what he does. So he talks about his first video. His wife had twins. His first video that he published was 10 top tips to stop your wife stabbing you to death at night in your sleep. And it's 10 tips. It's like, and it's brilliant. You know, he makes this video and it's brilliant. And then another video that he made. His wife and he had IVF, and they struggled to have children for a long time. And they had twins a year ago, and it was Mother's Day. Mother's Day recently, and he made a video for Mother's Day, but not for mothers, for all the people that didn't have kids that wanted them.
Oh, amazing.
Brilliant video, very powerful video. And he made that, and he just basically said, look, we know where you are, and I want to say to you right now, contact me. If you want to scream at someone down the phone, you want to cry at someone down the phone, you want to have a coffee with someone, my wife and I will hear you. And that content is just gold. It really is gold. It's credibility, it's trust. And so you don't have to be talking about what you do all the time. Talk about what you're interested in. There's another guy that works with me. He runs marathons all over the world. So he's 50 years old, and he goes on holidays to do marathons. So he'll go to a marathon in Japan and have a 2-week holiday. You know, that's his thing. And he'll do 5 or 6 marathons a year. He's pretty good, you know. And his thing, you know, you watch him come alive when he talks about that kind of stuff. He literally comes alive. Ex-investment banker. When he's talking about anything else, it's a conversation that's quite subdued. He's actually from Essex as well. Went to Oxford, so he's one of those kind of studious types. And Essex and Oxford, that doesn't go together, but he did, yeah. And when you see that, that makes me remind people to lean into what you're really passionate about. because there's a lot of podcasts out there, people doing podcasts or creating content thinking, I've got to try and sell something. To talk about what you care about. One other thing with Joe is and this might be good for all you financial advisors or life insurance salesmen out there, Joe sends his videos. So whenever he has a prospect, he sends his videos. So he sends a link, okay, with 6 of his best videos to them and says to them, well, can you watch the videos before I see you? Because a lot of the time people won't have consumed all of your content or even your best. They might have 1 or 2. So he sends the 6 best. And then he said, every single time I do that, I close every single deal.
Do you know what the 6 videos are?
With whatever his 6 best.
Just whatever.
Are.
But are they related to the financial advice, or are they just related to him and life and like
They're lessons in both. So if he has a lead, he'll do a bit of research on the lead to find out if they've got a family, if they haven't, and whatnot.
Yeah.
You send a video out, okay, like he sent out the Mother's Day one and the one with humour. So we're all connected by humour and emotion. You send those 2 videos out to people, along with other stuff where you teach people valuable stuff. But he was creative. He took a notepad, okay, and I'll show you the videos after. Tim, Tom, and Dom. He took a notepad. He started drawing pictures. And so he did this flip book, but it was him with a notepad, with a marker pen, and he was drawing it. They've all inherited some money. And he keeps flipping the pages over as he does it. A brilliant video where he's teaching people stuff. And he sells nothing. None of his videos sell anything. And this is another area people get wrong. Don't try selling anything. Just give people value. Give them the knowledge. Don't say, I've got to hold on to it. I charge people for this like a lawyer does. You're ridiculous. You're an idiot. It doesn't work like that way anymore. People want the value first. Go and give them the value. You'll find that they'll choose you if you're valuable enough.
One of the things you said then is about this guy, the financial advisor who's sharing content about his actual life. You've got the marathon runner who's not actually sharing anything about their business. For a lot of people listening to this, that's almost blind faith. Because I know how it works, but I want you to tell the audience how it works. With them sharing their life, how do they end up actually managing to buy their product or give them their money? How do they actually create the sale if they're not talking about what they're selling?
Do we buy from people that we have common interests in or common interest with? I think we do. If you find something you've got in common with somebody, you'll typically buy them. So if, in this case, Simon is able to sell financial advice to everyone that's a runner, the chances are that first meeting he has with that runner, because he produces content around that, they've got a lot in common anyway, and he's got a better chance of closing the sale than me, the not runner, yeah? So I think it's important to understand that your podcast has got to be what you care about. You're bringing value, okay? Your consumer isn't everybody. And this is where so many salespeople get it wrong. It's this kind of blanket approach. Everybody is my potential customer. No, they're not. They're not at all. My dad is crazy about Land Rovers, like big time. He's 4-wheel drive off-road. He's an anorak. He's
you had him when you lived.
Okay, yeah, that's my stepdad, Dave. But he's mad about that kind of stuff. And it was his birthday on March the 1st. And what do I get him every year? A subscription to Land Rover magazine, because that's what he likes. And I said to him, Dad, I got to buy you a gift. He's like, that's fine. I'm like, I want to buy you a gift. What do you need? And he went, I could do with a high-vis jacket from when I'm on the moors. He said, because nowadays there's a rule that's come in that means if you break down or you get stuck in the mud, you need a high-vis jacket on. And sometimes it's cold out there, so one of those would be nice. So I get him a high-vis jacket. I'll show you the picture. He sends me a picture. He's made up Land Rover magazine and a high-vis jacket. That's my dad's area of interest. That's his vertical. If you find things in common with my dad, he'll buy anything from you. Okay, that's his thing. If you talk to my dad about mobile phones, he don't give a shit about mobile phones. It's not his thing. If you talk to him about Formula One, okay, he doesn't mind that. Talk to him about camera technology, not interested. So that's his vertical. Find that if that's your vertical, like Simon with the running, okay, my dad will buy anything. My dad will buy a mobile phone from somebody that likes Land Rovers. He won't buy a mobile phone from somebody that doesn't. So get into the space that my dad's at. And whilst you might think that's a very small section of the community, I'd tell everybody that's listening to this to ask yourself a question. How many clients have you got? Because I bet you haven't got millions. And I bet you don't even have tens of thousands. And you might be lucky if you got 1,000, but you probably got a few hundred. If you got a few hundred, tell me how wide of a niche that is. Because that's a very small group of people.
Yeah.
So I would just much rather sell to people that are interested in the same things as me. Because you build relationships with people that are longer term anyway. You've got things in common. It's just common sense. But it isn't, is it? Because everyone's desperate to make money, and everyone thinks that, you know, the way that they've been doing it for as long as they've been doing it is the way they've got to do it and keep doing it. And that's just really sad.
Yeah,
I agree, 100%. And that is, you know, that's why I liked the self-employed niche. I've always enjoyed working with business owners, and that's how this podcast came about, because I spent 2.5 years focusing on connecting with business owners to arrange their mortgage. And I thought, well, hang on a minute, I've not actually connected with anybody from my industry, and I've done this job for 13, now 16 years. You know, it's like when I started to connect with people in the industry, it was like, oh, we can all have the same bitch and moan about, you know, the lenders and the insurers and da-da-da-da, and it can actually, it's given me a little bit more passion for producing this and trying to help them, because I know the problems and the pains that they've gone through. So then it just becomes about trying to share content with people that's actually going to help them to build their business and have a better life, and not have to go through the pain of trying to get clients, trying to get sales.
Well, if you had somebody sat here right now that was a self-employed business person from your niche, they're just going to find more in common with you. I don't know that subject. It's not my area of specialty. So, that's exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
So thinking about a few things you've said there's so much I could actually pick up on. But there's a couple of things that have stuck with me from our conversation. So going back to, you said about building your businesses, and people going from an employed role or not learning skills as a business owner. You've set up multiple successful businesses. How do you do that? What would be kind of your basic blueprint for anyone who's potentially a sole trader or got a small team at the moment? How would they transition to the next level, or to get to, I think Lifestyle was a really good sized business. 10 people, you got time, you got freedom, you know, you've actually got a team around you. It's not you running it. But how would you go right the way through the transition from what you've seen? What's the best number?
We measure it in different ways. I think some people measure it in money. Some people measure it in options or choices. I think that the older you get, the more you realise that you're not very good at an awful lot. And also, if you're good at some things, invariably the things you're good at are things that you like. And so self-awareness, I think, is key here. Being really honest with yourself about what you're good and bad at. You know, if you asked me to come and run your accounts in your business, your business would collapse, because I'm just useless at that. Now, can I do it? Yeah. Okay, do I like to do it? No, I hate it. You know, and it would just take me 3 times longer than anyone, 10 times longer than anyone. So a lot of business owners are control freaks, and the problem is they make very bad decisions by being like that. They don't know everything about business. So I don't think it's a number of people. I have somebody that is my business partner that had worked for me for a long time, and I trust her, but the businesses were given to her, so I delegate to her. What she does from a delegation point of view is her responsibility. If she wants to be up 24 hours a day stressing like a good one, then that's up to her. If she wants to delegate it out to 20 people, then she can. And that's what she does. She's very good at delegating. Once I learned how to be good at delegating, I learned to be honest with myself and say, right, I can't do that. I don't want to do that. You know, legals, accountancy, admin, don't want to do that. You know, all these things. You earlier on this morning with tech, tech. Oh, you know, I give it to somebody that's good, and they have a chance then to be in charge of that part of the business. The businesses that I've got, I've built them because I know they can in some way somehow facilitate each other. And again, as businesses evolved, it's all about working around a big part around community. So you take my online platform, for example. Obviously, I didn't build that. You know, I'm in the studio filming everything, but there's a team of people that do it. That online product, you go out and market that online, and you sell some of it, and you sell it one at a time. You go to a company, and they've got 50 salespeople, you're selling 50 at a time. You go to a CRM company, so Salesforce, and you say to Salesforce, plug my training course into Salesforce, give it to everybody for $1 a month. Well, Salesforce have got tens of millions of people using it. You learn about this different arm of distribution, which gives you a chance to be removed rather than be in control. So you've got to learn about these things. It's not like you've got to read a book, or you've got to learn, and you've got to be tested on your knowledge. So learn about it and be tested. You know, like we talk about seminars. I'll go to a seminar, and if I think something's really valuable, I'll buy it. Okay. And then I won't buy anything else until I've perfected that. I don't care what anyone else has got to say. This is what I'm going to work on. Now, if I'm at a seminar and there's 2 people speaking and I think something's really valuable, and then the second person speaks and theirs is even better, and I've bought the first one, I'll park that. I'm going to focus on this one thing and learn it. As a business owner, I don't want to be at the beach or playing golf. Mm-hmm. I have no interest in taking time off. I love spending time with my kids. I love spending time doing my activities. So I've got my hobbies. I like to climb mountains and stuff, as you probably know. So I like doing that. But apart from that, I like to go to work. I really enjoy it. And I think a lot of people go into business trying to find a way of giving themselves freedom. I don't get it, because if you want freedom, the best freedom you can have is to take a 9-to-5 job with no stress. Okay, work in a library. All right, because that will give you time to work on all your other stuff that you want to work on. It'll give you freedom that the moment you leave that library at the end of the day, you have nothing else to worry about. Okay, at 5 o'clock, you go home, okay, do whatever you like. And you don't have to worry about anything until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock the next day. That's not what business owners have to do. You live it, you sleep with it, you have anxiety. People get all kinds of medical illnesses on the back of the stresses of it. So I think starting a business doesn't give people freedom. But being a master of self-awareness and a master of delegation are really important characteristics. Nice. And never underestimate the importance of it. And I don't care how much your shit doesn't stink and how great you think you are, you ain't that great. All right? And I had to learn that. And I know when you're 49 years old, or as I was back then, 40 odd years old, I had to learn that. My ego got in the way when I was in my 30s. I had too much of a great opinion of myself to be humble enough to be able to look in the mirror and say, right, hold on a minute here. You can't be as objective, because we know when you're 20 years old, you can run through walls. You can achieve anything. When you've had 30, you've had some disappointments, and you're more cautious. When you're 40, you start realizing shit. And this is why suicide rates between 45 and 50 are the highest in the world. Because people get to 45 years old and all that they thought they were going to achieve, they haven't achieved. And they're like, well, this isn't what I expected. So they jump off a building. That whole self-awareness, understand yourself, delegate to everyone, and start by trusting everyone, okay, and get over yourself and stop getting in your own way, because I made a big mistake of that. Getting in my own way, don't do that.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I think there's always someone better at something than you. And you were with John DeMartini at the weekend, and his whole thing is stay true to your values. Mm-hmm. Focus on the areas that you actually love and enjoy. There's always going to be the 20%, 80-20 rule, Pareto's law. There's always going to be 20% that you don't necessarily want to be doing, that you can't potentially delegate out. But if you can love what you do 80% of the time and everything else give away to somebody else who loves doing the admin or the accounts or whatever, then so be it. Definitely. So that's some principles for business, which I think is massively powerful for anyone listening. What about some principles for sales? You've sold a hell of a lot of life insurance policies. You're now training people on sales.
I think selling financial services and insurance products is the easiest thing in the world. When you sell something that everyone needs, it's like,
Nobody
to
wants
me,
it. That's the difficulty.
but that's not, you haven't got a choice. I think that the way I see life insurance is, can I swear?
You've already done it 3 times. So.
I think if you have a family, and if you have a family, you're a fucking idiot if you don't have life insurance.
Agreed.
If you have a family, you're an irresponsible twat if you don't have critical illness cover. That's as you are. You're an idiot if you don't do that. And people go, oh, I never get round to it. How fucking selfish can you be not to put your children first in that example? Now, what happens to you? Oh, it won't happen to me. Well, what if it did? All those people that die in car crashes, motorcycle accidents, get cancer and whatnot, all these things that happen, they didn't think it was going to happen to them, and then it did. So for me, you're an idiot. And if you as a salesperson don't understand that in financial services or in life insurance and kick, if you don't understand that, then your mindset is wrong for the business, because you have to get that. You have to really, as an insurance salesperson, you have to get that this is not some form of privilege sale. You're not selling a Porsche Cayenne, all right? You're selling something that people need, all right? And if you don't sell it, then you're a weak salesperson, because you haven't sold something that somebody needs to buy. It's not a want, it's a need. Is it the same in the UK as it used to be? When you get a mortgage, you've got to have life cover?
Not anymore. They scrapped it, which I think is just ridiculous and so irresponsible of the industry.
Okay, so that doesn't exist.
No.
When I was younger, there was no option.
Yeah.
So in Dubai, you do. You have to have life insurance for a mortgage. So you have life insurance. Now, again, then you look at how you sell life insurance to somebody that's young. You know, how do you sell it to a 22-year-old that's got no kids? Well, I bought life insurance when I was 22 years old because someone said to me, it's going to be really expensive in the future and it can be really cheap now. And as a young person, I was like, okay, what I could get for £10 a month back then, okay, they told me down the road was going to cost me £100 a month. And you know what, it's cost way more than that. You know, no, I buy life insurance now, it's outrageous. But I don't understand why, and you know what, people that work in life insurance and work in critical illness sales, people that are out there that have the wrong mentality are actually damaging for the industry and damaging for the public. Someone needs something, it's your responsibility to provide that for them. And if you don't, okay, then you're doing a disservice to them.
Agreed.
So life cover, critical illness cover, and it's all, I mean, if you were a partnership in a business, if you and I are business partners and we didn't have key man insurance, we'd be stupid.
Yep.
Because what if something happened to you?
Yep.
Shares end up with my partner and your stuff. You've got a partner in the business who you necessarily don't want to be working with, which could easily be saved by business protection. Job done.
If I die, my children get everything.
Yeah.
Okay, if I die. But as a business, if I don't have that key man insurance, and who's going to replace that person?
Yeah.
There's all these things that people just, I didn't realise, I didn't realise. Now, yes, because that's right, you set up a business because you were good at selling something, you thought you'd have some freedom and you don't know what you're doing. Take some advice from people.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I found out a couple of years ago, probably when the kids were born really, and we started looking into getting a will. And it was that fact of, right Gary, if you have tenants in common is obviously the common way in which to buy a house, so it's 50-50 and all that sort of stuff. But if something were to happen to me, and then Aisha were to go and remarry, and then something were to later happen to Aisha, my whole family and my whole estate and everything that I'm working hard to build up could end up with some other man and his family who could actually choose to leave my children out of it. That just blew my mind. Which actually I was just like, right, this has all got to completely change. But it was just like, that was just absolutely eye-opening to me in terms of,
But even another
if there was
level
content that was being produced on a regular basis and the place that you looked at on your phone educating you about that 5 years earlier, you'd have been wise to it.
Yes.
But there's no bloke out there that does wills that's sitting there going, oh, social media is the tool for me, I should use that. No, they sit there in their little office with their little filing cabinets going, oh, I need to process these wills. It just blows your mind. Yes, the lawyers do the same thing. There's one guy that I work with in Dubai that is now doing Facebook Lives or Instagram Lives, teaching people stuff. And I love it because he's the only person in Dubai, in law, that's teaching people stuff and bringing some value. But then, like you said, I didn't know. What financial advisors are out there educating people? What financial advisors in Chelmsford, okay, teaching people about life insurance? I never see videos on that.
true. Yeah, very, very true. Give me an idea now.
Just don't do it.
But that's it. No, you don't see it in the slightest. Don't see it at all. And that's it. Then your clients come to you pre-sold and you've got absolutely nothing to worry about it.
Can I buy some life insurance, please, Spencer? No. Yeah. How many of us don't want clients like that?
I think one of the biggest things I know from the Mortgage Pro Group and 700 advisors and everything else is the time that they feel it takes to be able to put the content out there in the first place, as well as dealing with the client.
Yeah.
That's the
Takes so much time, doesn't it? Yeah.
Biggest complaint.
Takes so much time. I'm with Gary Dass at the moment. It was my neighbour many, many years ago, and he's got a really successful business here, and he talks to a lot of financial advisors, insurance brokers about insurance-related stuff. And insurance guys, you don't have the time to produce content. Yeah, I run 6 businesses, and I can produce content every single week, and I was doing the job that you did before full-time. Don't believe you.
And there you go, 15 seconds.
25 seconds of content. Come on, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy. It's just so easy. If you've got time to watch Love Island, if you've got time to watch your football team, if you've got time to have a pint with your mates, if you've got time to stare at a Netflix show, if you've got time to pick your nose, if you've got time to go to the toilet, you can create content. When you go to the toilet in the morning, And you sit there for your 10 minutes. Who interrupts you? No one.
That's the problem. Is a lot of people are still consuming rather than creating, and that's the big thing.
Consume. You need to produce.
Yeah. If you really want to have success, I think you've got to now, because social media is not going anywhere.
Another thing that's important to do, just quickly, is some of you will have listened to this podcast, and some of you will hate me right now, and I don't care that you do. Controversy is important, and controversy is important because it gets people's attention. I don't care if I'm offending some of your listeners. Out of 100 listeners, there'll be 30 people that hate my guts right now. There'll be 40 people that have zoned out, it's on in the background, and there'll be 30 people sitting there going, yeah, that's right, yeah, absolutely, Spence. Those 30 people are my audience. They're the people that resonate with me. They're the people that will, on the back of this podcast, probably try and find out more about me. And I think we have to remember that in business, all of us are the same, and being controversial because you stand up for what you believe in isn't a bad thing. And if you offend somebody, remember, I don't care about offending anyone, because what is offending? I'm offended by stuff, but that's life. Nothing's going to happen. You don't get leprosy when you get offended, you don't lose I'm offended. Oh, I lost a leg, and I was offended and I lost a leg, to me, it's ridiculous. It's all subjective, being offended. So, as far as I'm concerned, produce content that is confrontational. Don't fear stuff. Don't fear getting yourself, in a position where you might upset some people. Boris Johnson and Donald Trump are very comfortable with that, all right? And they're the leaders of our country. And Theresa May wasn't, and look at what happened to her.
Yeah, and I actually think that is probably a perfect ending to what has been a fantastic podcast from that point of view, because we've spoken about business, we've spoken about delegation, we've spoken about not fearing the no's, and not putting barriers in your own way, as well as the fact of selling is now probably not. Actually, I'm quite happy to say that when you came in with a view to talk about selling and sales, I didn't think it was going to take the angle that it actually took, because we've talked mostly about pre-selling and utilising social media, because as I explained with my story of my clients just come to you already sold, that actually you don't have to do a sale.
Two things before we finish then. Yeah. Number one, you don't start selling until people say no.
Yeah. Always.
So by pre-selling, you don't get no's.
Yeah.
So you haven't sold anything. People have bought something.
Yeah.
And why should one want to say, yay, made a sale? People bought something.
Yeah,
you've just turned your business into a shop that people keep walking into and queuing up at, and we all want that.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
So there's one major way you can get in touch with Spencer. I went to Amazon and bought his book, which is Making It Happen, The Ultimate Guide to Selling, which hopefully he's going to sign for me after this. But if people want to get in contact with you and find out more about Spencer Lodge, where would you like them to go?
My name sounds like an old people's home, so it's not hard to find me. But Spencer.Lodge is Instagram. Spencer Lodge TV is the website, and just go and find out. Go to each social media channel and type my name in, Spencer Lodge Official, or whatever you want to. Okay, if you even want to go and Google me, go and Google me. There's some shit about me online as well, because there's some keyboard warriors out there, but I don't care about that. But you'll find me. It's not hard to find me. And
we found each other, we still don't know, but it happened.
We don't know. I wouldn't have recognised you from a picture. But anyway, thank you for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming on. Pleasure. Cheers, mate.